I've been a part of this for recording in progress. I've been a part of this for quite some time now, and it's really amazing that we have gotten this far and we have so much farther to go. My name is Asante Haughton. I am the manager of storytelling here at Unsinkable, and I will be co-hosting with my good friend and amazing colleague, Maria.
Hello, hello, welcome. Super
Hey.
excited to be here. What a wonderful way to celebrate with two amazing people hosting. We've been here at Unsinkable for so long. If you don't know me, a little bit about myself is that I am the program manager for Unsinkable Youth. And fun fact for the both of us is that we've been with Unsinkable since 2019, from the very beginning. And for me, it has been such a huge honor to be here to celebrate with all of you. And it really means a lot to me that it's a full circle for myself and my story. And I'm sure, Asante, you feel the same way.
Absolutely.
So we will be your host and we will have a lot of fun. We have amazing speakers. And yeah, I'm very excited to be here.
Awesome. Like Maria was saying, we do have an incredible lineup of speakers today. But before we hop into all that, as we should, we are going to take some time to acknowledge the land in which we live and from which we are working. I'm going to start off, then I'll pass it to Maria. So, we want to begin this celebration by acknowledging that we are meeting on Indigenous land that has been inhabited by Indigenous peoples from the beginning. As settlers, whether we arrived here voluntarily or involuntarily, we are grateful for the opportunity to meet here, and we thank all the generations of people who have taken care of this land. With that said, I'm arriving today from the city of Toronto, traditionally known as Takaranto, the traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat peoples, and is now home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis people. Now, in Toronto, we also acknowledge that this territory is covered by Treaty 13, signed with the Mississaugas of the Credit, and the Williams Treaty, signed with multiple Mississaugas and Chippewa bands. For all of us, it is important that we move beyond acknowledgement and toward justice seeking, because most of all, honoring this land together is important to bring us all together in harmony. So I'll pass it off to you now, Maria.
Thank you. And I would like to begin by acknowledging that the Halton region is where I'm from, is situated on traditional territories of the Mississauga of the Credit and on traditional territory of the Anishinaabe, Haudenosaunee, and Huron-Wendat people. This land is also home to many First Nations, Inuit, and Métis people, both past and present. I have the privilege and I'm very grateful to live and work on this land, and I've recognized the important contribution that Indigenous people have made and continue to make to our communities and to our lives. We acknowledge the generations of caretakers who have been taking care of the land before us and continue to pay tribute to the ancestors in this sacred land. My grandma always said, I'm from Peru, so I do have Indigenous history. And my grandma always taught me that we must continue to learn and respect the traditions and the knowledge and wisdom from Indigenous people, and honor the history and our ancestors. So today we are doing that.
So why are we gathered today? We are here to celebrate where we've been, where we are, where we're going. 5 years, it's a short amount of time, but it's also a long time, and it's definitely worth celebrating, especially given where we started. Maria told a little bit before, her and I have been here since the beginning, and we've had the opportunity to see this organization grow and really touch the lives of so many people across our country and really across the world. Um, so it's really amazing for us to be here. It's been an incredible journey from being, contacted at the beginning to support the launch, becoming a champion, and now being the manager of storytelling, I'm still new, so give me a little bit of time to get acclimated. But I'm really, really happy to be here this evening, and for as long as Unsinkable will keep me. Maria, I don't know if you have anything you want to share about how you got here.
Yeah. Over the last 9 months that I've transitioned into being part of the staff and program manager for Unsinkable Youth, I was able to do a lot of reflection on how this started and where it's going. Um, Throughout all of the 5 years that we've been working with Unsinkable as community champions, providing our stories, sharing our lived experiences and inspiration. It's been a huge honor to be a part of this full circle, like I said, for me. Um, you know, Part of that reflection was originally when Silken and I met, and the way that she looked at my story and looked at me, it was very humanizing. And, she said that my story mattered and my story is worth telling, no matter how big or how small the room is, who's willing to listen and who isn't, that I was worthy of being heard and being listened. And I took that and I carry that with me because that is something that I also share with the youth that I support, is that no matter what, like, you are worthy of being heard and your story being told, and you matter. And Unsinkable is able to carry that mission and really bridge the gap that my younger self definitely needed. And we're able to carry that to other people, to other youth and storytellers and champions. So it's been a lot of reflection, a lot of happy moments, um, and I'm very happy to be able to share this space with all of you. And Asante, I think it is a very full circle how both of us ended up doing this. I'm very glad that we get a chance to be the host for everybody.
It's amazing how that works. How we launched the thing, and now here we are. Beautiful reflections, Maria. I think what you said really captures a lot of what Silken has brought to this endeavor, which is the selflessness and the desire to really connect and bring people together. But I think for me, someone who sort of grew up with Silken as a hero of mine, as in athletics and all of that stuff, it's the vulnerability that I think is something that really shows up uh, through Silken and throughout this entire organization, and why we are able to touch people the way that we have with our story. So, with all that being said, it's only natural that our first person in the lineup is our founder, Silken Laumann, who had so many accolades and an unnameable amount of achievements, really. But I think what really stands out for me is just who Silken is, and you know how she shows up as a person. You would never think that Silken has achieved as much as she has, because she's just so personable and human. Of course, let's mention a few things. Four-time Olympian, Silken Laumann, 4 times. That's wild. Incredibly inspirational leader, best-selling author, mental health advocate, legendary story, inspirational, just world champion, fought back from a devastating rowing accident to win bronze in the 1992 Summer Olympics in Barcelona. I was watching. And of course, her best-selling memoir, Unsinkable. In that memoir, Silken shines a spotlight on the obstacles she has encountered and overcome. And it's, again, really amazing that you are sharing so much, Silken. So Silken will speak candidly about her life, as she always has, about her athletic success and just moving through adversity, because like all of us, Silken is unsinkable. So let's welcome Silken to the stage, and yeah, take it away, Silken. Appreciate you.
Thank you. I find myself feeling a lot of emotion as I listened to you, Maria, and Asante, and your journey into this organization. And then as I reflect that it's been 5 years, 5 years of having this idea that, hey, maybe our stories are actually really powerful, and maybe stories, if we have the courage to be vulnerable, can give hope and help to others, and actually tell the person, to help the person who's sharing the story to kind of where we are today. And I wanted to start by just reminding myself of something that somebody told me quite a long time ago. It's an African proverb. If you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. Now, how would that actually work into my life? I am a single scholar, and I love to go fast. In fact, the Olympic motto, which I went to 4 Olympics, as Asante said, is faster, stronger. It's actually higher, faster, stronger. And fast has always been important to me. Let's get some shit done. Let's get stuff done. Let's, accomplish. And Unsinkable was not built on this idea of faster. Unsinkable has been built on this idea of going together. So going together means showing vulnerability and having that vulnerability respected. And it means that when I say I'm worried, or I'm stressed, or I don't know what's around the next corner, that people around me accept that I'm human and that I have fears and feelings and insecurities. And this time around, as I built this charity, I wanted everybody to feel that we could be honest, from everything from the board level, when we have a audacious fundraising goal, or we have a legal problem, or whatever it is, that we could together say, I actually don't have the answer, and I don't know, I need help. And that's vulnerability. That's something I never did as a single scholar, and I learned kind of later in my career. The other thing that I've really noticed in the last 5 years is that going together has also meant listening. It's meant listening as we build this charity. So I may have had an idea in the beginning, which was storytelling's really powerful, and I'm a storyteller, and it's in my DNA. So let's do this, and let's have a website. Then people like Asante and Maria and Sigrid and other members of our team, we've been listening, and we've been hearing, and we have been changing and directing and shaping ourselves by really listening. And listening often means that you have to have a willingness to change your mind, to listen deeply, and to put aside your preconceived notions of where this conversation is going. That's real listening. And as I look back and reflect over the last 5 years, I never wanted to start Unsinkable Youth. I just thought that was going to be too big an idea, too big a project to do Unsinkable and Unsinkable Youth. But oh my gosh, then the pandemic happened. And what did we do during the pandemic? We started to listen, and we listened to the voices of young people. And those young people were saying, we're not okay. We're struggling, we're at home, we're disconnected from our friends, our parents are working full-time in their bedrooms, and we are scared, and we're alone, and we're disconnected. And from that, this whole other organization, which, we've come together to become Unsinkable. So I've really learned as a leader to listen, and listen knowing that what I might be personally invested in may not be the outcome of that conversation, if that makes sense. And the third thing I feel has really unfolded as Unsinkable has gone through these last few years is trust. Trusting each other as human beings, trusting that we can tell our story and we can be respected, and that Unsinkable will find a way of telling that story in a way that brings hope and help to others, but also respects the storyteller's need for individuality, for creative license, and all the things that they may need. And we trust each other as team members. We have a board of directors at Unsinkable. And I have to say, like, there are people from all different walks of life with all different experiences, but everybody comes to the table fully, and they bring themselves, they bring their own vulnerability, they bring a passion for helping, they bring their skills and their intelligence, and we have learned to trust one another. I see it, Maria and Asante, amongst our staff, amongst our team, how we come from really different walks of life. I think we have one of the most diverse teams imaginable in terms of like life experience, ethnicity, religious backgrounds, like, you name it. And yet we've all found this common ground. And I think that common ground is a true desire to help and to respect one another. So learning to trust has been a huge part of my own personal journey in Unsinkable. And I think it's becoming built into our DNA. And the interesting thing is that most people at Unsinkable, and certainly everybody on our team, has lived mental health experience. And many of us have experienced trauma. And people who have experienced trauma, particularly childhood trauma, have difficulty trusting. It's very common. So in a way, we're having to challenge the very things that we're not that good at. I'm not very good at really, really trusting and letting go of control. And I would not have been able to build and be part of building something like Unsinkable 10 years ago. It was because of my own personal mental health journey that I came to understand, those childhood influences and my own trust issues. And here I am now in the mental health space, building an organization where trust and the trust in each other is going to be probably one of the most important components of our success. And that also extends to trust with our sponsors, with our partners, that we believe that they also are aligned with our values and our goals, that they can trust us to do the work that we say we're going to do, because if we show up and we say, this is what we're going to do, we need to deliver on that. We need to put our best efforts to make sure that we respect the relationships that we build. So the foundation of Unsinkable has been really important, and it's been informed by my own personal journey and all of your own personal journeys. And I think that we have some things that are really special about what we do. And Asante, you talked about it a little bit, which is like we've created this safe space, right? Where vulnerability is encouraged and respect is really like paramount. One of the most liberating things that I've done in my lifetime was to write my own personal story. When I wrote Unsinkable 10 years ago, I was terrified. Like, I was so afraid of changing public perception of who I was as a person, because, Maria, you saw me as an Olympic athlete. Asante, you saw me as an Olympic athlete. And then for me to share about growing up with a mom who had a serious mental illness that was never diagnosed, and my own struggles with depression, with rage, with anxiety, that was really putting myself out there, especially in the context of the mental health environment we were all living in Canada 10 years ago. And nothing could prepare me for that book tour that I did. And the stories that I heard and the way that people received my vulnerability. And I had to be so okay with my story that if somebody came up to me and I had triggered them with how I was sharing, how I was showing up, that I could listen to them and I could say, thank you for sharing. But what showed up in that book tour was people wanted to share. Yes, they were excited to hear my story, but they wanted to share their own story. They wanted to have an avenue to have their lived experience. And Maria, as you said, respected and heard, and know that it's important. What you've been through as a human being is important, and it has the capacity to give back to others. Now we have kind of a name for it. It's called narrative therapy. You know, this idea that like storytelling can be super powerful, not only for people hearing it. I mean, that's kind of what I was focused on, I think, in the beginning was, oh, all these stories. Like when you hear somebody who's been through alcoholism, who's been through addiction, who's been through child abuse, who's been through abandonment, and they come out and they're like a high performer and they're doing all these wonderful things, that's going to give you hope and help. That's kind of where my mindset was. But when I actually went on my book tour, when I experienced the liberating effects of really understanding where I came from and how I now had the opportunity to change some things in myself that were no longer serving me in my life. And so that is the opportunity in knowing our story, is we know the origins of our story. We might now know why we're affected in certain ways by certain triggers, by certain experiences. But now what can we do? How can we empower ourselves to be different, to show up differently, to move ahead in our lifetime? And we are increasingly recognizing that the benefit is not just to one another, it's to ourselves as storytellers. And Asante, you're hearing that every day from our team, and we're hearing that increasingly from our community. And what we keep hearing from our community is they want more opportunities to connect. They want to figure out like how we can connect with each other as storytellers and how we can create a greater sense of community at Unsinkable. So when you're maybe not part of a 6-week actual youth program, you can still feel supported and connected. And I think that we'll be getting on to what's going to happen in the future around that later in this conversation. I'm so proud that 5 years in, every single person who's working for us has lived experience. That I think 100% of you have either been storytellers or involved in the organization in a different way before joining our actual team. And I don't think anything speaks more powerfully to the impact that Unsinkable has on each of your lives than the fact that you have chosen to use your considerable talents and abilities and passion and hard work to our organization. Because I know you've all had other options. So I'm really proud of that. How 5 years in do I think we distinguish ourselves from all the other organizations out there, all of whom are doing great work? I think number one, absolutely number one, it's the people. Everybody here is authentic and vulnerable. And I think that that is truly our greatest strength. We're also skilled and smart and ambitious and driven and all those other things. But at the core, we're willing to show up as human beings in this world with all our vulnerabilities to work and to the community that we serve. And I think that just comes out loud and clear. And it's that vulnerability that makes us so strong, and that the people here we've attracted are exceptional. Our board of directors, we didn't have a board of directors 2 years ago. I didn't really understand the power of having a board of directors. I'd heard, I've been part of board of directors, but we were able to attract amazing people who give up their time every month, several times a month, to serve on our committees. Every one of our board directors also serves on committees. We're a working board. And what a working board means is that we got to do stuff. So if money needs to be raised, the board has to get involved. If we've got to come up with a communication plan, it's a board member who might lead that. So it's actually not a lightweight job. It's a big job. And every single one of our board members were chosen first for their integrity, their personal integrity, and their commitment to Unsinkable and to mental health. And the skills that they have, whether they're lawyers or communication experts, all that, it's actually secondary to their character. And that's really showing up in how amazing our board is. I've been part of over a dozen boards in my lifetime. And I got to tell you, this one's really, really special. And so that hasn't happened by accident. That's happened by in the forefront of everything we do, keeping that openness, that vulnerability, that caring, that trust, and building it into baking it into our DNA. You can't fake this stuff. You can't just put it on and put it on your motto and stick it on your wall. It's Maria showing up at 2 a.m. sometimes to email a young person who's struggling as part of her council. I know she does that. I know that's a level of caring that she has. It's Asante, waking up in the middle of the night and going, you know what, I'm feeling like I want to be a little cautious on this story. I want to maybe spend a little more time with the storyteller. Maybe that storyteller is not quite ready. It's these little things that we're paying attention to when it comes to people and caring that is allowing us to attract people like you. So, and it's allowing us to attract our sponsors. How is it that this little organization, is attracting Sun Life and Good Life Fitness and, BDO and some of these other, the Lang Family Foundation? It's because we're transparent. We're people first. And I think people get the vision of where we're going, and understand that our first and primary goal is to move people along their mental health journey, that we want our content, our events, our councils, our programs to positively move people along their mental health journey. And that is like the most important thing to me. I am impatient. I like to go fast. So I'm always asking Haley, and I'm always asking, okay, how many people are we helping? How are we helping them? And unfortunately and fortunately in this field, sometimes it's hard, right? Sometimes it's hard to really to understand how you have affected a person. Because what is it that someone said? What is it that someone did that made a difference to this person? Sometimes we don't know till later. We're doing a better job, I think, of quantifying and measuring and keeping track of that change we can affect in an individual. And it's something I'd like to see more of in the future. And I do have impatience around it. I mean, 5 years in, I'm like, come on, let's keep going. We got a lot of people to help. There's a lot of people struggling out there. How are we going to do better? How are we going to do more? Those are things that, for me, keep coming up. In closing, I guess I just want to say that I'm amazed. I'm amazed that 5 years in, it's just not me and 2 other people pounding the streets. It's like this family. It's you. It's everybody on the call today. It's people thinking of getting involved with us. It's our unsinkable storytellers and community. I really don't have words to describe how deeply moving it is that actually we have learned to go together. We have learned to engage, support, and learn from each other. And I think that the people involved in this organization are very, very, very special. And rarely am I on everything from a board call to a team call where I'm actually not moved to tears at the courage and the resiliency of everybody involved here. So it's been an amazing 5 years. I'm so proud of where we are, but I'm also super excited about where we're going and how we're going together.
Thank you so much, Silken, for all of the wisdom that you bring. And, something that you did mention at the beginning is that when we came and first met you, yeah, you were the Olympian and you were the athlete, but you were able to humanize yourself and say, I'm actually like everybody else and I struggle with my mental health, and that is okay. And having that as a foundation for us to be able to carry that to our programs, to the storytellers, the champs, and the youth is comes from the core and the foundation that you have brought. And the vulnerability and resiliency that you carry and bring to the team is tremendous. And I know we're all so thankful and grateful for you creating Unsinkable and being authentically and unapologetically yourself. So thank you for sharing your piece. And the other piece that you also mentioned is that we have amazing board members, and I want to be able to pass that and recognize the amazing committees that we have and the board members, and do a little bit of that introduction to our next speakers. We have Kate Nassar, who is going to be the next speaker. And she has been one of the first chairs that Unsinkable had, and has been so fundamental with creating that foundation of committees and being involved, and hiring and doing that transition piece from nonprofit to a charity, and has been that instrumental member of the board and continues to be part of the board of directors. So I'm going to pass it on to you, Kate. It's going to be a pleasure to hear from you, from your perspective of what it was like being one of the firsts. Oh, you're muted.
There we go. And hopefully you can see me, because I can only see obviously just the screen here, but with Sigrid and I. But yeah, Maria and Asante, thank you so much for hosting. I'm like I'm at a loss for words already. Silken, you always have a way of taking our breath away, so thank you for being you. So I am thrilled to be participating in this celebratory event for Unsinkable, and it's really actually, as I was reflecting on sort of what I was going to share, it took me right back to the very beginning, and I wanted to kind of show you and tell you how I got involved in this incredible organization, and which really has been life-changing in so many respects. And I got involved in 2019 when my very dear friend Michelle Archer called me at work and said, wondering if we could arrange a meeting between Unsinkable and Sun Life's philanthropy and marketing teams, because Silken was going to be in Toronto. And not only was it wonderful to reconnect with Michelle, but also to hear about what Silken was embarking on. And so we had a wonderful in-person meeting. We had an opportunity to introduce Silken to our president, Jacques Goulet, at another charity event. So it was great to make that connection. And the time didn't align to be able to form a partnership at that time, but because it was 2019, but then the pandemic hit. and and the marketing team came back to me and said, it was actually probably Jacques' team that said, have you kept in touch with Silken? And I said, well, actually, yes, I've kept in touch with the Unsinkable team. And Silken participated in Sun Life's Ask Me Anything session. And this was really critical timing because the pandemic had just hit. And obviously leaders were trying to rally and bring people together, give them comfort, in a very scary time. And Silken joined this session. And I have to say, she was talking about mental health and about, well-being and wellness. And I've told her this many times, but that conversation with Jacques, where she was, and we've talked about courage and vulnerability, we were having a conversation in this organization that we had never really had before. She was a catalyst, in my view, a catalyst with Jacques' support to change the culture, to be vulnerable, to hear people's stories. And that session opened the door to more internal storytelling, leaders coming and talking about their mental health challenges and what they were doing to get the support they needed. And I just remember thinking, I can't believe this is happening. Like it's incredible to see the growth and the culture evolving in such an important way during such a vulnerable time. So anyways, that was fantastic. And I got a call to Christine Bays, the first executive director, called and said, we'd like you to join the board of directors, which I was thrilled. And then I think it might have been 4 weeks later saying, actually, we want you to be our first chair of the board, which I was overwhelmed and just thrilled to be embarking on this journey with Silken and Asha and the whole team. And so I didn't hesitate to take on this responsibility for a number of reasons because I had my own lived experience. And even though people didn't really know it at the time, and actually what Silken has just said really touched a nerve for me about childhood trauma and trust issues, I'd never really shared what I had been through, like sort of a toxic family environment. I had a breakdown in grade 7. I had postpartum depression when I had my son. I had major mental health issues when I was diagnosed with late stage ovarian cancer at 30. My first husband died of an accidental overdose only a few years later, and recently just lost my parents. And through all of that, what I realize is now I will never be alone. I will never be alone in this journey in healing. I may not be able to control everything that happens in my life, although I try. But and that's the controlling me. But I know with Unsinkable through this journey and what I have learned from all of you that are on this call today, all of the brave storytellers and champions and volunteers, is that there is help, that no matter what is going on, that in my life, that there are people that will support me, and I just need to say something. So so that's my lived experience, and it has been an honor to lead this incredible board and working with the executive directors, both past and present. These are such dedicated individuals that lead with expertise and passion and lead with the right amount of grit and grace. And the work we do has remained rooted in Unsinkable's mission and vision. And as Silken said, we make sure of that. We have those discussions in each board meeting. And we've grown it as a board by underpinning around governance, which is important. We have to have structure, and our partners expect that of us, by adding committees. And we have celebrated over the course of the last couple of years, our first AGM, our first members meeting. We've hired an interim and a full-time executive director, and we've welcomed passionate volunteers, including our valued advisors as well. And Silken, this wouldn't have been possible without you lighting the entire way. And so thank you so much for just being beautiful you. to Jen and Haley, I want to say I miss our weekly one-on-one meetings because board chairs and executive directors, we have frequent touch points. And I can honestly say that lifelong bonds and connections are formed when you face challenges together, when you overcome challenges, when you celebrate wins and successes, both big and small. You both know how I feel about you, but I really wanted to recognize your contributions here today. And now it's exciting. I have, like any sort of early stage startup, it's important to get fresh perspectives, fresh, new experience. And I've passed the torch to our new chair, Sigrid. And I can emphatically and energetically say that we are in amazing hands with Sigrid, and so exciting for everybody involved. And we may be still a startup charity, but we're poised for growth and impact, that I'm sure of. And I can't wait to see where we're going collectively to take Unsinkable over the next 5 years. And let's continue to be innovative, courageous, and as Silken said, human. So thank you, everybody. It's a pleasure to be here today.
Wow. Thank you, Kate, for sharing. Just, yeah, like, look at the chat. The chat is just everyone saying, wow. Um, thank you, Kate, for being so vulnerable and letting us know the journey that got you to be where you are. And, I think it's really important to share because you have achieved so much in your life and such a high position in your career that I think sometimes folks have this assumption that achievers are not coming from challenging stories and that it was smooth sailing the entire way. So to hear your story really provides a lot of insight into the variety of different folks who can achieve. And especially for folks who are in the struggle, the hardest parts, it really does provide hope. So thank you, Kate. Whew, so that's one of our board members. And we have another one coming up for you. So I'd love to introduce Sigrid Watson, who is well, one of our board members. Sigrid brings to Unsinkable 30 years of diverse experience leading and developing high-performing teams with multiple Fortune 500 companies in healthcare, launching and growing brands in nutraceuticals, pharmaceuticals/biotech, diagnostics, and health tech. She's a passionate advocate for research-backed individualized approaches and the power of nutrition, exercise, and nature in supporting mental and cognitive health, and deeply committed to the organization's mission of empowering youth mental wellness through her role as board director. So please welcome Sigrid Watson to the stage.
Hi, everyone. Can you see me and can you hear me? I can only see a screen, so I just want to be sure.
We can see your box. We can hear you for sure.
Okay, you can't see me. Okay, here we go. 1 second. Start my video. Okay. Hi, everyone. It is so inspiring to see everyone joining this very, very special celebration today. I am Sigrid, as Asante mentioned, and I've recently taken on filling the very big shoes of Kate in moving into the role of chair at this amazing organization. And as a new team member at Unsinkable, the milestone I'm celebrating is joining an organization that I know has changed thousands of lives in the last 5 years, and is going to change exponentially more lives in the next 5. So I'm so excited to be here. So we share our personal stories here at Unsinkable, and I'm going to share some of my story with you today and what's brought me here. So I was drawn to Unsinkable by my own lived experience with mental health, which started in my early childhood. When I was young, my grandmother suddenly developed severe bipolar disorder, and she went from being the vivacious, grounded center of our family to cycling between catatonic depression in 1 month and then crippling mania in the next month. And it was 2 decades of watching her and my grandfather suffer before she ultimately succumbed from the side effects of more than 12 medications that she had to take every day. And meanwhile, on the other side of my family, my grandfather suffered as well with relentless depression. We never talked about it, and he never got help, and he dealt with it by self-medicating with alcohol. And that's what a lot of people did in that time. And I watched him destroy himself over 20 years before it ultimately killed him. And those events had profound impacts on everybody in my family. My sister was diagnosed with bipolar depression and was in and out of hospital for a good part of her 4 kids' lives. And my brother also developed depression and anxiety. And when his medications didn't seem to help, and alcohol did, he lost his marriage, his job, and custody of his child before rehab finally stuck. So between my 2 siblings, they have 5 children who were profoundly impacted by their experience. And as for me, my childhood experience manifested as depression and a need to try to control as much as I could about my life. Enter extreme perfectionism, which I've been dealing with for a long time. And that included an eating disorder when I was younger. It consumed much of my teenagehood. And later on, it manifested as debilitating anxiety because I was desperately trying to manage everything in my life and career. And I don't think that that's an uncommon story. I think a lot of us sort of deal with some of our childhood experiences that way. So all of us had one thing in common, and that was we felt completely alone in what we were going through, and we suffered in silence. No one talked about this in the 70s or the 80s or the 90s or even the 2000s. And since that time, life has sped up to almost unmanageable levels and speed, as we all know. And now we find ourselves living in times of epidemic rates of mental health issues. So things haven't gotten better in that regard. And my husband and I have 4 sons who grew up in the age of iPhone and were among those that lost much of their high school and university experiences to COVID. All of them struggled with some combination of depression and anxiety, with 2 of them reaching a point of significant distress. And of course, that had significant impact on us and our mental health as well, just watching that. So when young people have mental health issues, as we all know, it's shame and isolation that prevail, right? They're convinced that they're the only ones feeling this way. And even the best counselor can't convince them that many of their friends are in the same boat, in all likelihood, or that things are going to get better. And with their lives centered around their phones, this is our new reality. They're exposed to a constant stream of the champagne reel, right? So everyone else seems to be living their best lives and thriving, except for them. And that's why Unsinkable's mission and approach really struck me. In today's world, there's no escaping being online. But what if we can meet people where they are, online? What if, instead of acting as a source of anxiety, we can infiltrate that online space with content that makes people feel less alone? Because sprinkled in among the champagne reels online, we're seeing more and more real reels, where people we thought had perfect lives are now vulnerably sharing deeply personal stories of imperfection, pain, and resilience and recovery. What if going online, we're met with stories of real people with imperfections of our own, like our own, and working through similar tough stuff, coming out the other side stronger, reminding us that we will face difficult things. It'll happen again, but this time we'll be just that little bit better, a little bit more resilient, and that we've got this. And maybe we'll be able to help somebody else because we've been there. And what if that young person who's feeling really alone and struggling and has a welcoming, secure place that they can go, where they can talk openly about what they're going through and get the support of peers who are going through the same thing? That's the world that I want to see. And that's why I volunteer my time at Unsinkable. And I'm so grateful to be here with this incredible team. So when I announced on social media that I was joining Unsinkable, I was flooded with very personal messages from parents talking about kids who were really struggling, like my kids were, and they were eager to know more about how they could get involved. It really struck me then how everyone feels alone in what they're going through, and often that lack of hope until suddenly they see somebody else's story out there that tells them, hey, I'm not alone in this. There are people all around me going through the same thing. A couple of pivotal moments from shortly after I joined Unsinkable that really stick with me that I want to share. So the first one was when I saw Peter Neal, the founder of Neal Brothers Foods, and his deeply personal video where he shared his experience with navigating the anxiety and depression provoking waters of entrepreneurship. So as someone who's walked that entrepreneurial path and understands how profoundly alone that can feel and the stressful experience, the stress that it provokes, I knew the impact that that video would make on all of the people in Canada, starting businesses all around us, that the impact that it would make on them. And then shortly after that, I found myself standing in front of our first billboard downtown Toronto that was announcing in huge letters, "No one's life is perfect," and directing them to stories and resources on the Unsinkable site. So in that moment, I realized that many weary Torontonians who were struggling felt a little bit less alone that day as they walked down the street. And I really got the difference that we can make. I heard a quote the other day that really summed up for me the mind shift that we're creating for Canadians across the country with Unsinkable. And it's this: you can't stop the waves from coming, but you can learn to ride them. And that really says it all for me in terms of what we're doing with Unsinkable. I feel immensely privileged to be joining an incredible group of heroes who are sharing their very personal stories to help others, heroes who are all volunteering as much time as they can toward making a real difference, compelled by their own lived experience to join the movement and make real and lasting change for others. And all that effort would be for naught without some other very critically important heroes in this equation, and that's our incredible partners who stand steadfastly with us and behind us in their commitment to create as much change as possible with us. To you, I want to stress that we recognize the importance of turning that investment of time and funds into broad, meaningful, lasting impact. And to that end, our model is very scalable. We continue to develop an incredible troupe of passionate, skilled community champions into an ever-increasing number of communities across Canada who continue to broaden our impact. And while technology may have contributed to some of the mental health crisis, it's not going away anytime soon, and our mission is to leverage it to turn the situation around and use it for good. Technology has the power to compel and mobilize people, and to connect people to people and connect people to resources and support that can help. And in fact, it's because of technology that our storytelling model is very scalable, and it makes it possible for us to continue to broaden our impact and do more with less into the future. So in closing, I just want to say I'm absolutely amazed at the impact that this team at Unsinkable has made in just the last 5 years, and so excited about the lives that we're all poised to change in the next 5 together. I couldn't be happier to be here.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Sigrid, for sharing. And we couldn't be happier to have you. What was that quote that you said? Something about, you can't stop the waves, but you can learn to ride them.
Yeah, they're going to come. We can learn to ride them, right? That just resonated so much with me when I think about Unsinkable. And, that's really what it's all about. And that's why I just love what that represents. And it's so memorable to me, and I think if you can keep that in mind, you can be ready. Those waves are coming. And, they're coming to everybody else too, right? And we can help each other ride those waves. And that's what we're here for.
Absolutely. Super, super inspiring message. And, I think that's one of the things that storytelling really does. It shows us, that we can ride the waves, but even more so, how to ride the waves. So thank you, Sigrid, and thank you, Kate, again for sharing. What a wonderful team we got. I'm still kind of new around here in terms of being on staff, and I'm just amazed the collection of just incredible people. What a blessing. So anyway, for all those in the audience who are listening, thank you so much for being here with us. We're going to be here for another little while, but we're going to shift gears a little bit and get a little bit of audience feedback. So what you see on your screen right now is a QR code and also an alphanumerical code there at the top. And what we're going to ask you to do is to log in to the platform we'll be using for this activity called Mentimeter. And once you sort of scan the QR code or put your code in, once you've logged in, the rest will sort of appear on your device, whether you're doing it on your computer or your phone. The instructions will be there. And our prompt is, what word comes to mind when you think of the power of storytelling? Oh, and here we go. thing I love about word clouds is, you know, the size of the word tells you what people feel about it. So right there in the middle is connection, and surrounded by healing, community, courage, trust, hope, compassion. Me as well, Kate. I love the word awakening. Definitely jumped out to me. Redemption, inclusion, powerful words. Anything jumping out to you, Maria? Anything that's like resonated?
Yes, I love all of this. One of my favorite words I've used quite a bit today, but it's resiliency and connection is really jumps up. The support, the hope, all of the good feels are really happening right now. It's really like what I would describe unsinkable to be is everything that is being said, and that really validates the work that we're doing. And it also, as a person, it's really very touching. I love that they keep coming. Thank you, everyone.
49 responses. Says a lot about the engagement here. Thank you, everybody. Really appreciate it. So it looks like the responses are slowing down. Once again, connection right in the middle, surrounded by hope, community, healing, compassion, courage, peace. And just because those are the biggest words don't mean that they're the most important. Again, we have a lot of words scattered around: vulnerability, inclusion, redemption, awakening, empowerment, together, resilience, inspire, etc., etc. These are the things that storytelling brings into our lives, and why it's so important. And a big part of who we are and what we do are our advisors and our champions and the folks who may not always get all the spotlight, but we want to give them a little bit of spotlight now. So I'm going to throw it to Maria to introduce.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you. I have the pleasure of introducing Lindsay Thompson. I've had the privilege to have multiple conversations with Lindsay, and her passion really shines through with each conversation. Lindsay is a registered psychotherapist and founder of the Momentum Mindset, a company that provides clinical and business consultation in the mental health sector. One of the key pieces that when I was reading your bio, Lindsay, is the passion that you have for women's health and leadership and showing up authentically and having the privilege of all of your knowledge and really showing up. I know that every time we have conversations, you shed so much light. And I had dibs on who was introducing you, and I put myself down automatically. So please, Lindsay, thank you for being here, and I will pass it on to you.
Thank you for that lovely introduction, Maria. And as always, it's a pleasure to work with you. So I'll share just a little bit about myself in the context of Unsinkable. So I've had the opportunity to actually work directly with the youth facilitators and do some, kind of train the trainer sessions with youth facilitators over the course of the pandemic. And wow, can I just say that is just has been such an incredible experience. And, we always hear this conversation around volunteering and altruism. Is it truly altruistic if you get something out of it when you're giving your time? So I definitely felt like I've gotten so much out of those experiences. Some of the content that we had a chance to discuss and knowledge I was able to share on these young youth leaders who are going to be, the future, I think, of our mental health sector. some of the topics that we discussed and learned about were, emotion regulation for oneself and for working with others. When we're in a group setting, how do we manage that fine line between peer support versus when do we get into that space of, okay, can we help to set you up with a mental health professional or with someone else? We also talked about trauma dumping. This is a common kind of language that we're hearing more and more in pop culture, and just in general. I love this transition to using more kind of that clinical type language in day-to-day speak. So really just helping them navigate what are some of those common themes that we're all struggling with. Self-compassion, self-care was another big one as well. I really enjoyed the opportunity at coming at it from a help the helper perspective, because we often think about, okay, can I support, the friends and family in our life, but who's there to support the caregivers, and who's there to support, the ones who are providing that care, providing that clinical knowledge, whatever it might be. And I've also had the privilege of being a storyteller myself as well, specifically talking about that experience of being a therapist, living with generalized anxiety disorder, living with, experiences of perfectionism and burnout. And the last thing that I'll say, just, about the beauty of these youth groups and how they were set up during the pandemic is that's not something that was available to me when I was a teenager. I even spoke to my therapist earlier this week about the fact that I often felt like I had to figure it out on my own, and that I was alone, and that I had to carve my own path. And I didn't have incredible youth leaders like Maria and Asante leading the charge, right? And all the other amazing people with Unsinkable. So I'm just eternally grateful for all the incredible work that Unsinkable does. And I think we're really setting our youth and our current population up for success and for mental wellness and balance moving forward. That's a little bit for me. Thanks so much, everyone.
Thank you so much, Lindsay. Very much appreciate you being here with us and sharing what Unsinkable means for you. So what do we got next? So a big part of Unsinkable are our champions, and when you think about the word champion, you think about someone who achieves and really wins something. But for us, we think about champions as ambassadors, but also folks who are so gracious to share their stories so vulnerably and so honestly with our community, but the community at large. And again, without the champions, where would we really be? Because these are the stories and that really connect, and the community that we're building that goes out there and through their sharing are able to change lives. So first, we will introduce Kenny Impindu. Now, Kenny Impindu, originally from the Democratic Republic of Congo and raised in Edmonton, is a bobsled athlete with Olympic aspirations and an advocate for those with speech impediments. His personal challenges have fueled his commitment to promoting resilience and empowerment. Please welcome Kenny. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Asante. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
When I think of the word unsinkable, visions of resilience, determination, and unwavering courage come to mind. It's about someone who, against all odds, refuses to let adversity dictate their course. And tonight, as we celebrate the 5th anniversary of Unsinkable, I am profoundly grateful to share my journey with you, a journey of finding my voice. From a very young age, I lived with a speech impediment that often dictated how I felt about myself and how I assumed others perceived me. It was more than just a challenge. It was a shadow that followed me in every aspect of my life. I remember times when I would stand before an audience and my heart racing as I battled the fear of being judged, merely for the way words left my mouth. But every story has its turning point. Last year, encouraged by the support from Bella's talk, I reached out to Unsinkable. The simple act of messaging this wonderful organization was the first step in a transformative journey. The program manager, a storyteller in their own right, provided not just an ear, but a platform for me to share my narrative. It was daunting, terrifying, to be honest, to lay bare the details of my personal struggles and triumphs. But the act of sharing my story was liberating. I remember vividly the moment my story went live. I shared it on social media, and then overwhelmed by vulnerability, I put down my phone. I walked away for half an hour, fearing the judgments that might come. But when I finally mustered the courage to look again, I was not met with criticism, but with an outpouring of love and support and messages of encouragement flooded in. Some people and flooded in. Some from people sharing their own battles, telling me how my story had touched them, had given them strength. That moment was a revelation. It taught me the undeniable power of vulnerability, of sharing your story to give others the courage to face their own. Unsinkable has been more than just a platform. It has been a beacon of hope. It has shown me that every story, including mine, has the power to inspire, to empower, and also to change lives. Because of Unsinkable, I no longer see my speech impediment as a barrier, but as an integral part of my unique self, which I now embrace proudly. My journey from a place of self-doubt to one of self-acceptance and then to self-celebration might have seemed unlikely, even impossible years ago. Yet here I am speaking to all of you, not just as someone who has overcome, but as someone who has transformed by the very act of sharing his truth. To everyone at Unsinkable and to all of you who believe in the power of resilience and the strength found in our shared vulnerable abilities, thank you. Thank you for turning what once felt like a solitary struggle into a chorus of voices singing of him of hope and strength. As we look forward, let us continue to be unsinkable, not just in our triumphs, but in our willingness to be open, and also support each other. Let us be a lighthouse to those who are still navigating through their storms. Thank you once again, Unsinkable.
Thank you so much, Kenny. It is a pleasure to hear your story again. I know I wrote in the chat a little bit of our experience, and you came to the youth group and shared your story. So brave and remarkable and inspirational. And
Thank you so much.
the youth and the youth facilitators loved hearing you be so vulnerable with your struggles. And it's difficult and I appreciate that vulnerability that you bring. So thank you for being part of
Thank
this
you.
celebration, sharing your story.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you guys again.
And that being said, I also have the pleasure of introducing a community champion, Justina. I know that there's a little bit of a bio about you. However, I want to shed some light in how remarkable you have been and so instrumental to not just Unsinkable, but to the youth program. You have been one of the first placement students from George Brown. I graduated from George Brown, so there's that respect and admiration. You're going to be a tremendous social service worker. You have been so instrumental connecting with the youth and being a youth facilitator. I want to thank you so much. And I do want to give a shout out to 2 more people that are in the room with me, since it's Tuesday and we do have a group. And they also say hi. Hi, everyone. But we do have 2 facilitators with me getting ready for the group. So Justina, go ahead, share a little bit about you.
Thank you so much, Maria, for the introduction. Hello to everyone. Thank you so much for having me be a part of this celebration. What an incredible accomplishment. I'll share a little bit about myself. I'm Justina. I have a background in mental health counseling, motivational speaking, youth leadership, and also entrepreneurship. And I am really honored to be one of the first placement students to be working with Unsinkable. For me, I just graduated, or I'm about to graduate from the social service worker program, and I really appreciate how everyone just shares so vulnerably. And me being in school right now, having gone back to school even as a mature student, education is not something I take for granted. A little bit about me in the sense of I grew up in a very tumultuous, dysfunctional home. I left home at a young age, and I went from being on the honor roll to a high school dropout twice. And so from then, I went on to becoming the first person in my family to graduate university. And then taking a break and traveling the world and sharing my story and working with youth to just really inspire them to follow whatever their dreams were in the world and to be an active member of their community. I then went on to do a lot of inner healing work around the things that I had been through in my life. And I became a mental health counselor. So taking what I've been through and using that as a way to guide and to hopefully be a support for others. So in being at George Brown, part of the program was you needed to do a placement, and I wanted to do something that was uplifting and motivating. So I went to Google, I think it was even 2-in-1, universe, align me with the organization I'm meant to work with using my skill sets, and then Unsinkable pops up, and I'm like, what is this? And so I look it up and I hear and I see Silken's story, but it was phenomenal. And then it was the platform and also the way Silken shares her story about her family and her mom. But then the platform that was created, it was an immediate, like, I want to be a part of this. How can I be a part of this? And so I really gravitated towards, I think it was used a lot today, grit, the gumption, and also the messaging around not allowing anyone outside of you to define who you are. Nothing that's happened to you to define who you are in the world and what your strength and resilience is capable of. So I messaged Haley, we had a chat, and then Haley really opened the doors for me, and the opportunities have been phenomenal. So working with Maria, with the youth program, and really getting to meet the facilitators and the youth, and working with the storytelling program, and then also being on the front lines doing the Young in Dundas Square on International Women's Day and celebrating the billboard, and then also interviewing Leanne for her book. The opportunities that were given to me, I do not take lightly. I am so grateful and so appreciative, because it really speaks to the messaging of, the staff in the community really walk the walk of what it means to be unsinkable, and the vulnerability that comes through, the openness that comes through, It just makes you feel safe to share who you are. I don't think I've ever been this supported or encouraged to be truly who I am and have that be celebrated as much as it's been my experience with Unsinkable. So I can gush about it. And to now going from being a placement student to a champion and to see my name up there, this is such a moment for me too, just to even be given the space to speak to everybody. Like I am just so honored and so grateful and so happy that it's the grit and the gumption and the glory and the redemption and the platform to all come together and be part of a community that actually walks the walk is so special and so beautiful. So thank you so much for having me and just being everybody who you are in the world. Just, it's so special. And I can't wait to see how this continues to unfold and how Unsinkable grows. And to everybody that I've met, thank you so much for just making this such a sacred experience for me. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Justina, for joining us this evening and for sharing your story and all the things that Unsinkable has brought into your life. But I think we should also acknowledge all the things that you've brought to Unsinkable in your time with us. So thank you, and we really appreciate you continuing on as a champion.
Thank you.
So now, last but certainly not least, we will introduce our fearless, incredible executive director, Haley Hechtman. And, I would read the bio, but, no bio is really required. No, I would just say that Haley is one of the most incredible people that I have had the pleasure to know and to work with, and truly just, the greatest superpower that Haley has is attracting other incredible people, which I think says a lot about Haley, that she so effortlessly is able to attract folks to the mission because of how amazing she is. So without further ado, Haley Hechtman.
Thank you. Thanks, Asante. That means a lot to me. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today to share in the celebration of our first 5 years and to welcome in our next chapter. I couldn't be prouder of what our team has accomplished with the support of our partners, our volunteers, our champs, our advisors, and our board, and I'm so excited for what lays ahead. In the spirit of storytelling, I too wanted to share how I originally connected with Unsinkable. I've been working in and around the mental health sector for over a decade, from crisis lines to developmental services, to employment support, to mental health advocacy. I've always been incredibly passionate about uplifting others and creating spaces for them to see the strengths that often go unnoticed. On a personal note, I had spent the vast majority of my 20s struggling with an eating disorder, and when I started my recovery journey at 29, felt compelled to share my story in order to shine a light on a mental health challenge that often goes both unrecognized and, scarily enough, congratulated if someone doesn't meet our preconceived notions for what that illness looks like. In late 2022, a friend of mine mentioned Unsinkable and let me know that they were actively seeking stories of hope and resilience for those on their mental health journey. I eagerly connected and became a storyteller in early 2023. And then, by fate, by magic, or maybe just the result of an ever more in tune social media algorithm, I started to see Unsinkable everywhere. While scrolling on Instagram, while checking out Facebook, while browsing LinkedIn, and then one day the executive director posting popped up on my LinkedIn recommendation page, and I was struck by the alignment. It was an opportunity to integrate my love of storytelling. I've been writing articles and sharing stories since I was a child, my deep passion for mental health and personal potential, and my desire to support organizational growth, all collided in this once-in-a-lifetime role. Coming to Unsinkable a mere 10 months ago, I've been blown away by our momentum, by the palpable enthusiasm for our work from our community and by the remarkable people who have brought their time, expertise, and voice to helping us create a roadmap that embodies our mission. Over the fall, we took some time to reflect on our strength, on our purpose, and on our theory of change. We engaged our team and our extended community to get a clear picture of how Unsinkable can continue to build and transform how mental health is spoken about and supported across Canada. Through this deep dive into who we are and who we want to become, we landed on our 5 strategic priority areas, each with a bold vision for change. For the next 3 years, we'll be bringing this plan to life as our way of contributing to the mental health ecosystem across the country, and truly investing in an approach that innovatively addresses the gap between those struggling with their mental health and steps towards mental well-being. Through initiatives focused on cultivating community, like hosting interactive events, connecting current and future storytellers to share the power that personal narrative has on others and on themselves, and bridging the gap by convening clinicians and those with lived experience to collaborate on meaningful solutions to address systems change. We are dedicated to amplifying the diversity of mental health experiences through perception-altering video series and continuous story sharing that truly recognizes the intersectionality and nonlinear nature of mental health across our country. We will embrace thought leadership by bringing to life multi-generational conversations and educational sessions, by centering the voices of people with lived experience, and by developing new programming that truly ignites how stories that we carry around with us about who we are and what we're capable of can, with support and guidance, be rewritten and bloom into self-compassion. We see ourselves not as an island in the midst of the social impact space, working on our own to foster change, but instead as a convener, as a capacity builder, as an amplifier of the work that's being done across Canada, from individual mental health advocates in our Community Champs program to grassroots organizations offering critical clinical services. We are here to work in partnership, to create new ways of empowering people to recognize that they're not alone, and to help evolve the mental health landscape in Canada to one that showcases the strengths and gifts present in anyone who has or is navigating their journey. So, to activate this beautiful, bold, community-driven mission, we invite each and every one of you to join us, as together we will be able to spark big shifts and empower more people to access the resources, have the conversations, share the stories that will truly move the needle for mental health in Canada. There are a number of ways that you can join as part of our Unsinkable ecosystem. You can become a part of our volunteer team, contribute your time and skills to making a difference in the lives of others. You can help us spread awareness by sharing unsinkable stories and messages on social media. Your voice can inspire change. You can donate, and your generous donations will enable us to continue our vital work and reach more individuals with our message of hope. Every contribution makes a difference. And you can collaborate with us as a corporate or community partner to amplify our impact and support mental health initiatives together. This celebration has been one that shines light not only on how much one organization can bring to life in only a few short years, but around the infectious energy that a group of people can cultivate when they truly believe in something. I am so proud to be part of a team that not only brings creativity and thoughtfulness and generosity and curiosity to their work every day, but one that authentically models what we value. We here at Unsinkable are all storytellers. We are all people with our own mental health journeys on different points in a continuum, and yet are united and ignited by an overwhelming desire to create a more compassionate, informed, and inclusive Canadian society where mental health is embraced, understood as an essential aspect of our well-being, and actively supported within community. I want to end today where I began and where we shine, with a story. As mentioned earlier, I spent years struggling with my relationship to food and exercise and my body, yet I didn't fully grasp this. I knew something felt wrong, that there was a deep disconnection to myself that had formed over the years, and that I was slowly, or maybe not so slowly, unraveling. It wasn't until one day when by chance, I listened to a podcast where this one person who I related to, who I admired, who I trusted, shared her story, that the light of clarity turned on for me, and a mirror from her narrative to my reality became magnified. Something clicked for me that day. I had a name for the obsessive thoughts, for the anxiety, for the battles within. And even though my inner voice had been screaming at me for months or maybe even years that I needed something to change, it wasn't until someone else opened up that I finally was able to see myself. This single story was a catalyzing moment for me and encouraged me to start a cascade of story seeking, resulting ultimately in starting my own path towards recovery. without the vulnerability and openness that she shared. I do not know how much longer it would have taken me to embark on my own personal healing. And so this is the message that I want to leave all of you with. Your story, your life, and your experiences, they matter. They have the power to encourage others, to make people feel seen in a way that can only be done through deeply resonating with the emotions and motions of someone else. So whether you're telling your story on a platform like Unsinkable or to a group of friends over coffee, know that your voice can lead to immense change and that together we are unsinkable.
Thank you so much, Haley. Really appreciate it. Just incredible journey that we are on, and we are so grateful and lucky to have you as our leader. So we're moving toward the end of our event, but before we go, we'd like to give the floor again to Silken for final remarks.
Well, I've been intermittently in tears throughout this whole event. I can't imagine a better way to actually celebrate 5 years than to hear all of your stories and to just be so human together. It's so important that we celebrate, perfectionists, high performers, Olympic athletes are not always good about celebrating. You go from one achievement to the next, right? You just keep moving. And I just want to take a moment as we close to really tap ourselves on the shoulder, to really give each other a virtual energetic hug. I feel like I've just plugged in to an energy socket of love and authenticity and humanity by listening to all of you in this last hour and a half. And I want to just celebrate that. I want to celebrate everybody's courage, everybody's fight as we have gone through these last 5 years and have built something from nothing. And whether you are on the program side, whether you are on the board side, whether you're fundraising, whether you're creating social strategies, whether you're one of our sponsors and have taken a risk on us, I just want to celebrate you, and I want to celebrate ourselves for everything that we've done and how we've had courage to show up, to be brave, to do something new and innovative. That's where we're going in the future, but in this moment, let's just pause and feel good about where we are and what we've done. Congratulations, everyone.
Thank you so much, everyone, for being here. Silken, again, thank you for your kind words and remarks. And thank you, everybody, for sharing your stories and being a part of this amazing journey. Asante, do you have?
Final thoughts. Thank you, everybody, for joining us in these last 90 minutes. And just huge shout out to the Unsinkable team, the folks who are not on camera with us right now, Taylor in the background, and so many other folks who have worked really hard to make this evening and to make everything that is happening at all times happen. So big shout outs to them, but mostly big shout outs to everyone here, sponsors, champions, attendees, everybody. And we invite you to join us on our storytelling journey at Unsinkable. Please find us. Please join us. Together, we'll make it happen. Together, like Silken said, we go far. Thank you. Have a good evening.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.